Hey, what's up? It's Trent from Marmalade Cream Media, and I'm here with another podcast tip of the week. And today I want to talk about kind of a continuation of the last video, which is stuff that I've been checking out, some tools that I've been updating, and some Reaper specific stuff. So I actually do have some tips here today that is specific to Reaper users. So if you use this program, then stay tuned. But first of all, Merry Christmas. I hope that you all had a very Merry Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, if you don't, I hope you had a wonderful holiday, and I hope you have a very happy new year. This is the second time making this video, because the first time I didn't capture any of my audio. And that's actually a perfect segue for what I want to talk about today. So this time of the year is when I try to set aside some time to update all my systems if they need to check out new tools, new equipment. And, if I'm going to break anything and tear it up and put it back together again, this is a good time of the year to do it because I'm usually not super busy. And that's what I'm doing this week. So the first thing that I did is I updated my operating system. Finally, I am on a Mac and I've been running the Catalina operating system since 2019. So I have a 2019 iMac. And that's, it was loaded with Catalina when it came on here, and I'm still using it right up until the ass end of 2023. And I've just learned over the years that once you have a system that's working and that's really solid, that's just reliable, do whatever you can to not change that. Like really, really think about before you have to update something, or you're going to change to a whole nother tool set or new software or program, whatever, like really think about that because, man, once you have a reliable system that just gets out of the way and lets you work and lets you be creative, that is so valuable. Because I always forget. I try to take long periods of time between updating and I always forget about how much of a pain in the ass it is. But I needed to. Catalina worked great right up until the last few months. It was just starting to get sluggish, and some of my applications just weren't updating because Apple had dropped support for this operating system. So it was time. And I updated to Ventura. Now, that's not the most latest and greatest operating system. There's a new one out, Sonoma or whatever they call it. And that's another thing I've learned is I try to stay one version behind at least on the operating systems because it has bit me before in the past. Especially if you work in audio, if you do what we do and you have a lot of plugins and audio software from a lot of different developers, whenever Apple updates the operating system, if you upgrade to the latest and greatest, well, they tend to just drop it and they don't necessarily give the software developers any heads up of what changes are coming. And so several times in the past, when operating systems would update, these developers would have to scramble to update their software, their plugins, whatever, in order to work with the new operating system. Stuff would break and then they'd have to scramble. And, some of them are really fast and really on top of the ball. Some of these shops, some of the plugins that I like are made by fairly small developers or maybe like one guy. And it might take 6 months for them to be able to get around to updating it for the newest operating system. That's terrible, right? That totally leaves you, high and dry. So I highly recommend staying behind the curve on the operating system updates, as long as you can, because it's about stability. So I updated to Ventura, which has been out for a year and a couple months at this point. So it's pretty stable, pretty much all of my plugins as I've been exploring. I haven't tested every single one of them, but the vast majority of them so far have worked great. I haven't had any issues, and that's probably because, they were already updated to work with Ventura. The other thing you might have noticed is that my Reaper screen here looks a bit different than it used to. So while I was at it, I decided it was time to update from Reaper 5, which I'd been running for several years, to Reaper 7, which is the newest version of Reaper. And if you don't know, when you buy a Reaper license, you get the current version, every update that comes out for the current version, plus I think the next version. So I had a Reaper 4 license that I was able to update all the way to Reaper 5.99, the very last release of Reaper 5. And so if I wanted to update again, I'd have to buy a new license at that point, which is fine. I've been using that for years. And it's a very inexpensive program for everything that you get. So I'm happy to send those guys money. So I did that. I updated. And one of the reasons I really wanted to update is that I have this beautiful iMac 5K screen, this Retina screen that I've had to throttle essentially in order to use it with Reaper. So in the old version of Reaper, in Reaper 5, it didn't have great support for super high resolution screens. And so I had to basically choose this color profile that sort of dumbs down the resolution, not the resolution, but like the color schemes. And I don't know all the technical stuff behind it, but I basically had to like nerf my screen in order to make Reaper move smoothly, like for the cursor to kind of track smoothly and for things not to be too jumpy and laggy. And even then, it was getting to the point where it was pretty slow. So I updated to a newer version of Reaper, and since Reaper 5, they have added a lot of support for high resolution screens. And so now this thing runs super smooth. As you can see, I'll just play a little bit here.
But I recently discovered that there's a whole backlog of beginning.
Right, you can see the cursor moves very smoothly. The meters move.
But I recently discovered that there's a whole backlog of beginning balance episodes.
Right, the tracks, if you're going to resize tracks, that kind of stuff, it moves so much smoother than it used to. So that's a really big upgrade. But the other thing is, while I was at it, I'm like, hey, let's keep going. I'm going to change my theme. And that's the main thing that I want to talk about today is Reaper themes and what you can do to adjust them. Because I think this is a really cool feature of Reaper that not a lot of people know about, or there's a lot of people that don't realize you can do this. So let me back up for a second. If you download Reaper today and you open it up, you're going to see this. Okay, this is going to be the basic layout that you see here. Now, this is my mix template, right? So it's kind of my track layout. But you're going to see like this theming, right? The colors and the buttons and everything are going to look like this. This is the default Reaper 7 theme. And it's pretty good. It's definitely, it's workable. Not my favorite. I think it looks just kind of a little goofy with these giant buttons, and I don't like the font. I don't like really the colors there. On the mixer screen, I don't like that by default, it doesn't have any like markings on the meters.
I recently discovered that there's a whole
so you can't really tell like kind of how loud the tracks are. And I don't know, I'm just not a huge fan of this. So one of the things you can do in Reaper that's really cool is you can choose different themes that make the program look and feel totally different. If you have, if you just download Reaper now and you go to Options, and then down at the bottom here, Themes, you will find a whole list of different themes here. Now, I've installed some extra ones, so you're not going to have everything that I have here, but you will have the old versions of Reaper. You can go back to the way it looked in previous iterations. And so right off the bat, I really liked the Reaper 6 default theme, default 6.0. Let's check that one out. Okay, it's very similar, but the buttons are a little bit smaller and a little more toned down, and I liked that. Also, the mixer view has markings. You can see decibel level markings on the meter, so you can see
emails, they call them.
Okay.
You can see kind of how loud the tracks are, which is really handy. And I like in general, I like a gray scale. I like looking at a gray background with sort of gray clips and dark waveforms. And the reason being is, I just find like when I'm looking at the screen for hours a day, gray seems to just be a little easier on the eyes than seeing a bunch of bright colors. Now, if I'm mixing music or something, I will actually add colors to these tracks, and you can do that very easily. But when I'm just doing like spoken word stuff, I just like to see a pretty flat color. So this is pretty good. And I certainly could run with this. But one thing a lot of people don't know is that there are actually third-party themes that you can download and try out in Reaper that can look drastically different than just the defaults. So I'll show you. So you can go to reaper.fm. That's the main Reaper website. And if you go to resources, you'll see there's this themes option here. So click on that, and it will take you to this page where there's hundreds and hundreds of themes that have been generated by the community, right? Just users upload these, and you can download them for free. And I will say that, if you just look at like there's 68 pages of these things. So there's a bunch of them out there. And frankly, a lot of them are maybe people who are just starting to dip their toe into designing, graphic design and user interface design and stuff. So they're not all good. Some of them, they took other popular themes that are really good and they tweaked them a little bit for their own kind of, desires or whatever. So you'll find all these like iterations of the same thing. So it's a little bit Wild West, but it's easy to get on the Reaper forums and search for, people's favorite themes. Or if you get on the Reaper subreddit, you'll find people's favorite themes. And there are a handful of names that will come up over and over. And there are some themes out there that are designed by users that are just absolutely professional. They look great design, great colors, great use of space, and all that kind of stuff. And you can really change the way that this program looks. So I just started downloading a few and tried a few out. And I really liked this one called Smooth 6. So you can go in the search uploads here and Smooth 6, you can click that. And you can see there's different versions of it, art mod, blah, 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 blah. But if you go down here, you'll find the original Smooth 6 Reaper theme. So if you want to check out one of these themes, all you do is you just click on it and it brings you to a landing page where you can see like screenshots of what it looks like when it's all, when you've got tracks all sort of colored and laid out and stuff. And you can just check out some of these screenshots, see if you like it. If it's something that looks cool, looks like you might like it, you just go to the download link here, download it, and it's super simple to install. All you do is, I've already downloaded this one, so I don't need to redo it. But if I go down to my downloads folder here, you can see where I've downloaded themes yesterday. And you just grab the theme, the zip file here, and you just drag and drop it into Reaper. And when you do that, it will load up the new theme. And then once you've got that new theme, once you've done that, all you do is you go to Options, Themes, and you will see it down here in your list. It will add it to your list, and you can toggle between different themes. So let's check that out. Let's check out the Smooth 6 one. And I downloaded a few different versions of it here. But let's just check out the default Smooth 6. Right? There we go. It's not hugely different, but it's a little bit more subdued looking. It's got a darker gray sort of theming here. I like the buttons better personally. I just think they look a little bit more kind of out of the way until you need them. The mixer view I thought was really nice. Got these like good faders here. I think it's easier for me. It's easier to kind of see in my plugin stack what is active and what's not. That's important to me. And then I like the meters quite a bit.
I'm turning this thing off. So as long as you find your people, I guess it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's the nice thing about
you'll notice these meters have color to them, which is really nice. So basically when, in the other theme with the default theme, the default 6 theme, one of the things I really didn't like about it, I'll go back to that, is the meters don't give you any indication on the color, the meter bar itself of how loud it is.
People that are like, I'm turning this thing off. So as long as you
it's got this like nice green color. It's got good contrast, but you can't, the meter itself doesn't tell you how loud the track is. You have to sort of squint if you got tired eyes like I do and see the little markings on each channel to tell how loud the track is. So it doesn't give you, it makes you look that extra little bit to see where it is. And I guess you could get used to that and just kind of eyeball it and kind of figure out like, well, if it's this tall, it's probably about that loud. But I really like how Smooth 6 has this gradient, right? So
that are like, I'm turning this thing off.
So it's green up until about minus 18 dB. And between minus 18 and minus 6, it turns yellow. And then sort of around minus 6 to minus 3, it starts turning orange. And if you get close to 0, it turns red, right? So it gives you visual information without having to look at the markings of where you're at. And so for podcasts, I want my tracks hitting, I want them peaking somewhere between -12 to -6, which means they're going to be averaging -18 to -12, thereabouts. So if I see that the meter is just sort of sitting in the yellow most of the time, I know I'm good. I don't have to be really much more precise than that. And so that it just gives me at a glance much more information to work with than than just like a flat green color. So I really like that aspect of it. And that actually mimics the old theme that I used to use. So if you've watched my previous videos, you'll notice they looked quite different, and that's because I was using this theme called Rado Vox Light. There you go. I've used this for years, and it's a great theme. I still like it, but it's over 10 years old at this point. It was designed for Reaper 4, and it wasn't really designed with super high res monitors in mind. So the graphics of the waveforms are starting to get a little raggedy looking to me, and just not quite there. Maybe I could tweak that. I don't know, but I don't know. It's I felt like it was time to change. But one thing that Rado Vox Lite did really well is on the mixer view, it gives you those meters
that are like, I'm turning this thing off. So as long
right, so it does a similar thing. It gives you some color to indicate sort of what range you're in, and then they're just nicely delineated. You can clearly see which channel is which when you highlight it, and then also you can see the separation between the channels. I like that. And then in your plugin stack here, it's pretty easy to see what's highlighted and what's not. Now, the only thing I don't like about it is you can see what is active, but it's hard to read. It's kind of hard to read that text. So it's good. I still could keep using this for sure, but just wanted to kind of change it up a little bit. I've been just looking at that for years. So I found the Smooth 6, and it was pretty dang good. But I had a couple of niggles with it, and the biggest one was that when I select a clip, it changes the color of the waveform. So nothing's selected right now, but if I go select this clip up here up top, it turns the waveform white. And for me, that's just automatically a huge turnoff, because when I'm working on podcasts and I'm making tons and tons of little edits, I'm constantly flipping back and forth between tracks. And to me, if I'm sort of like my eyes are reading up here, like, ooh, I see some stuff that might be some junk I need to cut out, I might go ahead and start working on it as the cursor is playing maybe over here on the left. And so just flipping around and seeing that go from a dark gray, almost black color to bright white that's really kind of disorienting to me. So I hate that. The theme looks really great to me other than that. So I thought I was hosed. I thought I was like, well, I'll just have to try something else then. But a very helpful user on the Reaper subreddit told me that I can actually tweak this behavior. You can change the color of the waveform when you highlight the clip. So here's how you do that. You go to your actions menu. So go to actions, show action list, and type in theme tweak. Yeah. Theme tweak. And you'll see that the action is theme development, show theme tweak / configuration window. So you can actually tweak the theme, that's the active theme. You can change its behavior. So what we want to do is, it helps to kind of know some Reaper terminology here. I'm calling these things clips, but that's not what Reaper calls them. Reaper calls it a media item. So in our filter here, because we have this like huge long list of stuff that we can change about this theme. So it'd be kind of hard to scroll through and find exactly what you want. So instead, we're going to go in this filter and we're going to type in media item. Okay, and this is all of the options we can change that pertain to media items. And we want to change the color of the waveform when it's highlighted, right? So it doesn't call this the waveform, it calls this peaks. So we want to look at media item peaks, right? So here we go, media item peaks, odd tracks and even tracks, and then we've got media item peaks when selected. Okay, that's what we want. So you can see here on the left that by default, media item peaks when selected for both odd and even tracks are kind of this like almost white color, right? So we can change that so that it's the same as our non-highlighted tracks. So let's look at what media item peaks look like for non-highlighted tracks. Okay, so on the grayscale slider, those are at a 15% grayscale. Okay, you can also there's a lot of different ways to select color here, but since we're dealing with grays, it makes more sense to use grayscale. Okay, so 15%. So let's make the media item peaks when selected the same color as the other one. So let's go to this one and let's change our brightness to 15%. Okay, hit OK. Now, we've got to do it for both odd and even tracks. We don't want to have alternating. You can do that, but I don't want that. So we're going to have to change as well for the even tracks. So let's bring this to 15%. And hit OK. Oh, and there you go. Now, look at this. When I highlight a clip or a media item, it changes the background color, which is the other behavior of this theme, but it doesn't change the waveform color. And to me, that's much more usable because it's less distracting. I don't want to see the waveform changing colors all the time. So that's much better to me. And the only indicator that tells me I have a particular clip highlighted is because the background changes a slightly lighter shade of gray. So I like that. I like that a lot. Now you can go further if you want. You could change the media item background when selected, media item label color. I mean, all these colors you can change. And that's where you can really get, detailed if you want to. But for me, if I find a theme that I like, but I just want to change like one aspect of it, it's really nice to know that I can do that. And that I think this is a really powerful feature of Reaper that not a lot of people know about, is you can customize the way it looks and you can really make it work for you. There's nothing wrong with using the defaults. Frankly, it's probably, if you're a brand new Reaper user, using the defaults is going to be easier to follow along with the tutorials, because some of these themes change the icons and the location of buttons and stuff. But if you're fairly familiar with the program like I am, then themes can be a great way of kind of just fine-tuning your eyeball experience. So there you go. That's what I wanted to show you today is themes and how to tweak them, because I didn't know about that. Learn something every day. There's some other cool stuff that I discovered. So I've been showing you kind of just fairly minimalistic grayscale themes, but there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's some other cool ones I found. So let me go back to my theme list here. I really liked this one called Dark Side Imperial. This one's quite different. Now, this one has a grayscale sort of track view here, which I really like. I thought this was really sharp. Has really nice colors to it. But the mixer view is very different. So if we go to the mixer view here, you can see totally different, right? So it's more of an analog mixer look to it. So you've got your faders down at the bottom, just like you would have on an analog console, but you didn't have meter views right next to your fader. The meter on an analog console is going to be up above the console on a meter bridge. That's where you can get your visual indication of level. And so this theme emulates that. Your meters are here at the top of the mixer page as opposed to right next to the fader. And it's good for what it is. I think the one thing about this particular theme is this was designed for large screens. And I have a fairly large screen here. It's a 27-inch iMac, but it's not huge. So I think this theme probably benefits or is going to be better suited to, like a very large monitor or even like a TV screen, like a TV panel you're using for your computer, because you'll see like
balance episodes.
Oh, weirdness.
And she said,
yeah, those meters there they look nice. I like the color of them, but because there's only so much real estate on the screen, they get kind of shrunk down, and they're just a little too short for me to really get a lot out of them. But otherwise, I think this thing looks great. It looks really nice. And if you want sort of more of a kind of real life look to your mixer, it's pretty cool. Maybe you might find that not seeing the meters right away kind of makes you use your ears more with your faders, depending on what you're doing. It could be cool. But anyway, that's just to show you that you can make this thing look quite different from the default if you want to. And you can even tweak it to your heart's delight under the hood. So anyway, hope that helps. If you're sitting there messing with Reaper or you want to give it a try, it's a cool feature. All right, catch you later.